So what I'd like to know is, would you prefer a guy that is completely honest or a man that tells you what you want to hear?
Completely honest.
Okay. So what would happen if a guy came up to you and said, I think you're very attractive. If I took you out, spent money on you, made you laugh and feel special, would you be open to hooking up with me? That's completely honest, right? Would something like that be acceptable?
I think so.
I would appreciate it. I may not accept it, but it
Right.
would be.
I think
don't
it's
know.
better for people to tell the truth.
Yeah.
Okay. What about like, do women expect an honest answer to, does this make me look fat? Or is that kind of like a trick question, or what do you think?
I feel like it's mostly a joke
Yeah.
because we know if we look fat or not.
Right.
Yeah.
We just kind of want to know what you think.
Okay. If there was one thing you wish men better understood about women, what would that be?
When I'm hungry and what I want to eat.
Let's see. I would like to know, do you think men and women can be just friends?
Yeah, I think they can be just friends if they've never had like a sexual relationship prior. I think if you've had sex prior, probably not.
So, if you asked your best straight single male friend if he'd hook up with you, what do you think he would say?
Yes.
He would.
Probably.
I don't have any male friends anymore, really.
So then it sounds like you can't be friends, right?
Well, I mean, I moved across the country, so none of my friends from high school that I was like really good friends with live near me, and I'm not close with them anymore.
So okay, so when you meet a guy, how do you decide if he's going to be a friend or more than a friend? And do you decide right away? Because they often say a woman will know in the first 5 seconds if she's attracted to him, and I'm just wondering if that's a true statement or if that's kind of more of a myth.
It's mostly personality for me, because if they don't have that, then it's a no-go.
If they have a horrible personality, you're not going to sleep with them. So, yeah, I would say, yeah, you'd know right away.
Yeah.
So, do you think, like what is a guy able to bounce back after a bad first impression?
Maybe.
I think second chances are a good thing for everyone.
What is the difference between a first impression and judging a book by its cover? Because they tell you not to judge a book by its cover, but we all do have first impressions. So, what's your take on that?
I think that you could look at someone and think one thing, and then you kind of get to know them a little bit more and maybe think something else. So, like, I'm married and I met my husband. When I first met him, I was not attracted to him. I wasn't like even that interested. But then as we got to know each other, then I fell in love with him.
So what was it that he actually first did that like kind of sparked your interest, or said, like, was there a key moment where you said, that's the man, that's my husband, that's the man I'm going to marry?
Not in the beginning, but
Well, no, I'm just wondering when that actually happened. Like, when did you decide? How did you make that change from not being attracted to him to all of a sudden?
he just does everything for me. So he's super nice. He like gets me whatever I want. Like he's just like does everything for me, and I think that was a lot of it.
So what's the difference though between respecting a woman, making her feel special, versus the guy just pandering to all of her needs?
Thoughtfulness.
Yeah, like really listening to like knowing what you want and what you like.
Sorry, we're doing an interview, please.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. Hey, I'll take it. It's fun.
I'm like, what was I saying?
Las Vegas, people. The weirdos. Go on. I'm sorry, your mind's a blank right now, probably, right? Okay. Okay. No, just you were talking about thoughtfulness and.
Yeah, basically knowing like who you are as a person. So I think just like understanding like, okay, she likes this, so I'm gonna do this for her. So the difference of like understanding like really what you want and what you need, than like just someone doing stuff to be like, oh, I'm gonna do this for her and maybe get laid, or like actually.
Is there any one thing you could think of that actually like surprised you about your interactions with men, like something that you didn't expect, something that came as a shock to you about just how men's nature?
I think that all men kind of are similar in some ways, but I think like what surprised me most about my husband was more so like he's kind of old school, so he was raised with like values and morals and stuff like that. So he would hold open doors for me and like do those little things that I think women really appreciate, but guys don't really do anymore.
You're talking about chivalry. So let me just try. I'll do one more, and then, like I said, what are the characteristics of a gentleman?
I would say
The only description I have is Joe. Like, I don't know how to describe him, but he's
being
just
like respectful of you, but like knowing like when you can
I don't
joke
like
around and when
pushy,
you
cocky
can.
guys. It's
Yeah.
just not. It doesn't do it for me.
It's kind of like, on an unrelated question, I asked the difference between confidence and arrogance. Real quick, I mean, do you have a difference there? Or?
Yes. Arrogance is having money, knowing you have it, knowing that you can spend it on a girl, and thinking that she's still gonna like you, even
matter
though,
what, yeah.
like, even if you don't have a personality, which I thought worked too, but it really doesn't.
And he's back.
50,000 peso credit. We're good.
Thank you, sir. Should we interview him next?
You should.
Next.
I don't know. I just feel like guys that are very into themselves, it's usually like the metrosexual ones, which they're very pretty. They're so pretty, but it usually
They're
doesn't
more
work out.
into themselves
Yeah,
than you.
yeah. When they love themselves more than you, it just no.
Yeah.
So just going back to just wrapping up that other previous question about what would you call the female equivalent of a gentleman? What would we call that?
Maybe old-fashioned. I don't know. Like,
I don't know, classy.
I think classy.
like,
Yeah. Someone
I mean, we usually say blank and gentleman, right? We say ladies, right?
Yeah.
What are the characteristics of a lady?
Like classy. So someone who, I guess, understands her own worth.
Yeah.
So I think every person has a value. Like, but to value yourself would be, I think, a woman or a lady. Like.
Yeah.
And lastly, where would be the line between knowing your own self-worth and just feeling entitled?
Millennial. No.
I mean, I think your upbringing definitely affects that. Like, I grew up with a single mother. She worked 3 jobs so I could do gymnastics. And that's how I am too. I had 4 jobs at one point, and that's just how I was. But I feel like the ones that got everything handed to them are still like that in their relationships because of how they were brought up. So I never had that experience.
Everything's just like handed
that-
to them,
yeah.
Ladies, thank you so
Yeah.
much. Thank you very much. That was very educational. You guys have a great night. Bye-bye. Wow.